Welcome back to Our Canada, Our Future. We're joined today by Dr. Peter Jaworski, ethics professor at Georgetown University and a Canadian, talking about the Canadian system for collecting plasma for use in medicines and therapies. Peter, before the break, you were talking about the different systems we have in Canada. Some provinces, they may not pay donors for donations. Other provinces allow it. I guess the obvious question is, how is the system working right now? Are Canadian governments, the provinces, collecting enough plasma to meet the needs of patients in their provinces?
Well, for the most part, it isn't working. We've had problems for a very long time. So across Canada, we are able to collect, that is, Canadian Blood Services is able to collect approximately 15% of the plasma that patients need in Canada. The remainder, more than 80%, comes from plasma donated in the United States. This isn't unusual in the world. The United States is responsible for between 60 to 70% of all of the collected used to make these plasma protein therapies for the entire world. The European Union, for example, is about 40% dependent on plasma collected in the United States. France is now 67% dependent on the United States, and so on. Most countries, with the exception of the few countries that allow compensation, so that's the United States, that's Germany, that's Austria, that's Hungary, and that's the Czech Republic. Those 5 countries are 100% self-sufficient, and they collect more than enough plasma, so they are able to assist countries like ours meeting the needs of our patients.
So just to summarize then, really most of the world is dependent on the United States for plasma supply, that if the United States was not able to provide that surplus of plasma, that most countries would have a significant shortage of plasma?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And by the way, the therapies that are made from plasma are often life-saving. So immunoglobulin is a therapy that patients with primary immunodeficiency, for example, need in order to be able to deal with just a basic cold. So yes, these are life-saving therapies that are made from plasma, and the whole world is dependent on one country, the United States of America. And of course, the reason why we are is because so few countries allow compensation for plasma donation.
Interesting. And maybe we should get into that now a little bit. I mean, what, in your view, is that the main obstacle to countries collecting enough plasma? Is if you simply allowed governments to pay people, countries would be able, or at least closer to be able to meet the needs of their own patients from within their own borders?
Well, so far, that is what the evidence shows. So what I said is that there are 5 countries that allow payment, and all of them collect more than 100% of the plasma that they need domestically. Meanwhile, every single other country, that is every country that bans compensation or does not allow commercial companies to come in and compensate donors, all of them, there's not a single exception to this in the entire world. All of them depend to a greater or lesser extent on the United States. So it seems to me that it's not a difficult conclusion to reach that if you allow payment for plasma donation, more than enough people are going to show up and donate plasma. And if you don't, you won't have enough.
I wanted to ask about, because you mentioned the differences among Canadian provinces. What does the evidence show about the provinces that allow payment versus the provinces that don't? Are provinces that allow payment, do they have a higher supply than the provinces that don't allow it?
Yeah, in every case, they most certainly do. So just to give you an example, the smallest commercial plasma collection center is located in Moncton, New Brunswick. That plasma collection center collects approximately 30,000 liters of plasma per year. That is the highest level of collections of any of the other plasma collection centers that don't offer compensation. So compared with Canadian Blood Services, compared with Hema Quebec, that one tiny center in Moncton, New Brunswick collects more plasma than those other ones. On average, the ones that don't pay donors for plasma donation, they manage to collect between 15,000 and 20,000 liters per year at a cost that's 2 to 4 times higher, by the way. That's important to point out too. It costs 2 to 4 times more to collect plasma without compensating donors than it does to compensate donors. It costs more because you're still paying for staffing, you're still paying for the building, you're still paying for the marketing and so on, and the volume of plasma that you collect is so much less per year. And so on net, according to a Health Canada expert panel, anyways, I'm not crunching my own numbers here. I'm just reporting to you what the Health Canada expert panel said. They said it costs 2 to 4 times more to collect plasma without paying donors than to just take the money that you would have spent on marketing and other things and just give it to the donor.